What is good, YouTube? Quinway basketball analysis coming back with some free agency coverage. There's so many things going on right now that what's the point of uploading a video for every single thing that happens today, which I usually do, but it'd be more fun to kick it with the subscribers. Answers already off the board. Kyle Lowry will be going to the Heat. We'll talk about that. Obviously, you have Lonzo Ball going to the Chicago Bulls. You also have Mike Conley signing a $68 million deal. Stay with the Utah Jazz. And we're going to talk about those big names first. Lonzo Ball has struggled in the NBA so far in his career, not really being able to find a match, not really being able to find the right team that can allow him to use his up and run and gun style, being able to find guys, make teammates better, make them happier because he's always sharing and giving the ball. Being able to shoot that three is going to be crucial to his career as a spot-up shooter. A guy that can be a threat off the ball a little bit too will help. Still a solid defender. We didn't see that coming into the NBA, but he has been able to sustain that the last 2 years. I'm happy that he left the Pelicans because I feel like the Pelicans used him so bad. Playing with Bledsoe, another non-shooter. We know Zion Williamson is a non-shooter. We know that Brandon Ingram improved as a shooter, but Steven Adams is also not a shooter. And that's honestly and truthfully not the right way and the right personnel that you want around Lonzo Ball. And it was sad seeing Lonzo Ball not being able to get that rookie extension, but he has a team that wants him. The Chicago Bulls wants Lonzo Ball. They made a priority to pick up Lonzo Ball, and they gave him the money that he was looking for, the $80 million, which isn't a max, but it's good, to be a starter, play for a team that needs a playmaker, a ball handler, and a guy that can really add some oomph and some juice to this team. Also, a guy that can play make and, get the ball out of Zach LaVine's hands where he has to do everything offensively. And I think that this is a smart pickup for the Bulls. And we know that Billy Donovan coached Westbrook and Oladipo and those guys, and they played a slow game, but they also killed teams in transition. I can see the Chicago Bulls team doing the same, and they do have guys that can space the floor. We still have to see what they do with Lowry marketing. The Heat star Jimmy Butler also got picked up. He signed a 4-year deal worth more than $184 million. So it seems like the Heat is satisfied and happy with Jimmy Butler, even though he had a disappointing playoffs this season and this playoffs, but he was able to bounce back with a contract extension, and he wants to be here. He got a lot of hype saying that he wanted to go to Miami in his first season there. They was able to make it to the finals. They have a lot of guys that work hard. They just added Kyle Lowry, who is perfect for this team, a guy that plays hard, plays on both ends of the court, can play off the ball, can play make on the ball, can give them three-point shooting, a guy that understands big moments, can knock down big shots, can make big plays, and a guy that really wants to be in Miami. Miami is clearly better than Toronto. I have fans ask me, should Kyle Lowry stay in Toronto? The answer was no. That team is mediocre. There's no way you want to sign an extension that much money, and you might not even make the playoffs every year. But if you go to Miami, that's a whole different story just because they're more dangerous. They need a little bit more of an offensive punch. And at the same time, they finally got it now with Kyle Lowry. They just needed a little bit more creation, a little bit more of a scorer. And I think Kyle Lowry can give them exactly that. We also got to talk about Mike Conley signing that $68 million contract. He didn't really get the contract that he wanted. He had the hamstring injuries the last 2 years that really hurted them in the playoffs because he's a big part of what they do. He ended up getting $68 million. He didn't get the 75. He took a little bit more less than even what they wanted to offer him. But I think that's good for the Jazz, who are stuck because they paid a lot of money to Donovan Mitchell and also paid an enormous amount of money to Rudy Gobert, and they needed somebody to take a little bit of a cut so that way they can keep this roster competitive and be able to add small little pieces around them to try to win the title in Utah. Obviously, they was able to give Mike Conley this money because they made the trade to let go of Derek Favors, which opened up the space to be able to make this move happen. So that shows you that they really wanted Mike Conley to stay. They wanted Mike Conley to be here for a long time, and they felt like he was their point guard. And he fit in beautifully this year when he was healthy, being a guy on and off the ball, a guy that competes, a guy that's competitive, a guy that has improved, a guy that was an all-star for them, and now they have him locked up. He is older. He has been a little injury prone, especially in the playoffs the last couple years. But, you know, what else are you going to get? Can you get something better? You don't want to go backwards. You don't want to look at the past. You want to move forward and continue to build upon the future. And Mike Conley made them significantly better. He was the best point guard they could get at that time. And I feel like they really couldn't get nobody better than him, looking at their cap situation. So it's good that they were able to lock him down for a couple more years. And, I was a little surprised that they gave Jimmy Butler the extension early, but it just shows you that they're committed to Jimmy Butler and what he brings to the table. I also want to cover Nerlens Noel. He will be going back to the Knicks. He agreed to a $32 million deal in 3 years. He was really very, very, very good for them. A guy that can protect the paint, solid rebounder, doesn't really need the ball, doesn't ask for the ball. Still never really developed his skills offensively, but he's a guy that basically knows what his role is, knows what his game is, and he just goes out there and does that. And getting 3 years is pretty good for him because I wouldn't thought that he would have got that type of contract. And the Knicks made it a priority to, lock him down. He was a part of what they did, which ended up being special for them this year. And now we have to see what else the Knicks do with the rest of their, enormous amount of cap space. Kelly Olynyk and the Pistons agreed to a 3-year, $37 million deal. Olynyk was huge for the Houston Rockets, giving them some high output scoring games, giving them a solid rebounder and a floor spacer. They can play the 4 or the 5, depending on what lineup is out there. He played well for the Heat, too. Really gave them some finesse and some skill when he was in the finals. Had some pretty big games. He is a great player if you have the right pieces around him. And he is a guy that if you don't pay attention to, he will kill you because he can hit you in the post. He can hit you the mid-range. He can hit you from the three-point line. 3 years, $37 million is not that bad. He's basically getting the same thing that Nerlens is getting. The only difference is he is a little bigger. He is a little bit more skilled and polished. Not the defender than Nerlens Noel, but a significantly better offensive player than Nerlens Noel. And I can see why they will want to bring him back, even if they have to trade him in the future. Alec Burks will be coming back. He agrees to a 3-year, $30 million deal with the New York Knicks. I wouldn't seen this coming as he was barely picked up by them this year as more of a guy that they were just going to try out. They're going to pay him $10 million a year basically to be a guy off their bench that can create his own shot, can play a little bit in the pick and roll, can hit some threes in the corner, and a guy that can be relied on to hit some tough buckets if the defense break down or they don't pay attention to him, or he just needs to get a quick screen to get a quick shot off from the mid range or into the basket. So Alec Burke has been known as a bucket getter, and the Knicks locked him down as he was huge for them, even in those playoff games against the Hawks. Tim Hardaway Jr. He agrees to a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Mavericks. Hardaway averaged 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 28 minutes off the bench. And he also shot 39% from 3. He was one of the big reasons why the Mavericks commanded a 3-2 lead over the Clippers, hitting big shots, tough shots. Didn't really do it consistently, though, but you still want to keep him as an asset because he can play. He is a guy that can get buckets, can erupt, and is a guy that you don't want to just let walk away. keeping Tim Hardaway Jr. do hurt them being able to sign another big deal this offseason, but we still have to see what else they do with their cap space that they have left. And honestly and truthfully, the Mavericks, still look like a playoff team so far. I also would like to say that the Will Barton and the Denver Nuggets agreed to a 2-year, $32 million deal. That's amazing for them. That's amazing to bring back Barton. He ended up opting out because he wanted more money. He didn't get a long-term deal. He just got a 2-year deal, but he was big for them in the playoffs. His ability to play off the ball, his ability to defend, his ability to be able to score in certain situations, and a guy that knows the system, knows his role, knows exactly what he is to this team, and they made a move to get him. They wanted to keep him, and they locked him down for 2 years. And I don't really look at that deal as an overpay. I look at that as a deal for a good, shot creator guy that can play defense and also make plays for you as a ball handler. Um, Other than that, the Hawks is not close to a new contract with John Collins. They still struggling to find a meeting ground to where they can re-sign him. Chris Paul did undergo wrist surgery, but he will be expected to be ready at training camp, so he should be fine. And we got to see what deal he ends up doing. The Nuggets did agree to a 2-year, $17 million deal with JaMychal Green, a guy that they brought in to be a floor spacing 4 or 5 that allowed them to go small and give them some 3-point shooting, and a guy that can bring a lot of effort and energy. This is about what you're going to pay for a skilled big. And, Denver decided to keep a lot of their homegrown guys and role players locked into this team instead of going after other people, which could help them because that's chemistry and these guys are already been established within this team. The Lakers are also interested in getting Danny Green and Dwight Howard back. And the Bulls, Pelicans, and Hornets discuss Devontae Graham signing trades. I felt like the Hornets should give up on Devontae Graham, and it seems like they're willing to let him go. We have to find out what team gets him. The Laker is still trying to find a way to get Buddy Hield. They haven't gave up on that just yet. And also, the Thunder are preparing to offer Devontae Graham an offer sheet. We have to see if that happens. And the Celtics are interested in signing Isaiah Thomas back. That'll be interesting. And of course, Stephen Curry did sign a 4-year, $215 million extension to stay in Golden State more years than now. They have surrounded him with more talent. Hopefully, Clay can stay more healthy than he has been the last 2 years when he hasn't even played a game. We know how dangerous Clay is. We know how dangerous Steph is when they're healthy. And honestly and truthfully, it is kind of fun if you're a Warriors fan to have Steph back and to see that he's committed to the team, to see that he really wants to be a Warrior forever. He's not just saying that, he's walking and talking it. And if they can continue to put the necessary talent that can help him win, why wouldn't you stay there? You won all your titles in Golden State. You were drafted by Golden State. The players that helped you win the title are still there with Clay and Draymond, and they are putting decent players around them. They just have to develop, or they can use them as an asset to make a big move in the future to give them another star to put with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And remember, Andrew Wiggins had a better season than people thought. He was a solid defender. He was decent scoring wise, and he really fit in and blended in better than what we really thought that he would with Golden State. And you have to give him credit on that, and that's just being honest to where he is at a career. He's no longer looked at as that franchise guy anymore, but he is looked at as a guy that can be a solid starter, that can give you possible two-way play, and a guy that can get you a bucket. Maybe not the most efficient, maybe not the greatest shooter, but given the right situation and the right talent, maybe he can be a decent player. And I think he showed that in Golden State, and that was good for his brand. That was good for his image. Cameron Payne and the Suns agreed to a 3-year, $19 million deal. They did prioritize bringing back campaign as they have already locked him up. This was a guy that was almost out of the league, had to use connections to stay in the league, played well off the bench for the Suns all year, and also helped them a lot, in the Clippers series, the Lakers series, to beat those teams. And remember, Chris Paul missed the first two games in the Clippers series, and Cameron Payne had a big game in one of those games too. His ability to put pressure on the defense, hit threes, be aggressive, finish in the paint with floaters and layups, and just having his attack and quick mentality really gave them a different look once Chris Paul was on the bench or when he was out there on the court. Also, Jared Allen got picked up by the Cavaliers. They didn't know how much they was gonna pay him. Didn't know how much he was worth. Didn't know how they was gonna use him. Well, that all ends today as the Cleveland Cavaliers agreed to a 5-year, $100 million deal with Jared Allen. So he ended up getting traded from Brooklyn to the Cavaliers, and now they have officially locked him up long term to be their starting center now that they let go of Andre Drummond. He's young. He understands the game to a certain extent, still can improve, still can grow. He's long, he's lanky, he plays hard, he can rebound, he can somewhat protect the rim, and he still is a guy that can develop and have an even better career depending on how they use him, depending on how big of a role he has. And he's not finished yet. I look at him as a guy that can continue to grow and continue to improve. And $100 million is about what a starting center gets. We've seen Steven Adams get it. We've seen Rudy Gobert and those type of guys get it. Even Clint Capella got close to it, but they didn't get the 5 years like Jared Allen did, and he has locked down, his future with the Cavaliers. And I also want to know what else did they give to get Lonzo Ball since it was a sign and trade. Getting an $85 million sign and trade with the Pelicans to go to the Bulls. They ended up, now we know, they signed and trade Thomas Satoransky, Garrett Temple, and a second round pick to New Orleans. So they didn't really get nothing crazy. They didn't really get nothing amazing for Lonzo Ball, but they got two solid players. Garrett Temple is a 3-point shooter that's hot and coveted around the league. He always gets a contract. He's going to be in the NBA for a while as long as he can continue to let that thing go and splash in threes. Tomas Satoransky is a guy that a lot of teams are interested in. So if the Pelicans don't like him, they can always flip him into more picks or flip him into a player that they might want to take a gamble on. And they also got a second round pick. Not the biggest thing, but getting two quality role players that are assets and getting a pick on top of that, that's not that bad for Lonzo Ball, especially when they didn't want him anyway. You get something valuable making a move like that. But it didn't make the Pelicans enormously better, but it did give them another shooter, and it did give them a guy that can possibly be their point guard, depending on what they want to do with Thomas. So that's going to be something that's interesting. So we getting a lot of things happening, a lot of activity on day one. This has only really been 40 minutes, and we see a lot of people signing huge numbers, a lot of guys returning to the team they already was on, and a lot of guys getting at least 30 million at the worst. That's a blessing to be able to get 30 million. It's even crazy that Jared Allen got locked up for 100 million. Even Cameron Payne signed a 3-year, $19 million deal, and we didn't even know if he was going to stay with the Suns. But now that is now gone. We know for sure that Cameron Payne will be a Sun. Now we just waiting for what Kawhi Leonard's going to do. Now we're waiting for obviously what Chris Paul is going to do, and seeing Steph locked up, seeing Butler locked up is beautiful. Seeing Kyle Lowry finally get moved to the team that he wanted to play for. Everybody thought he was going to be playing for the Heat, and now it's official that he will be joining the Miami Heat and will be also signing an extension to be there for a couple more years unless he gets traded. So Kyle Lowry is a Miami Heat, and Jimmy Butler just earned more money with his extension, and that's a beautiful thing to see. Wizards also losing momentum with Dinwiddie. It looks like Dinwiddie was going to go to the Wizards, but now it doesn't look like it. The Celtics are more likely to trade Marcus Smart than extend him, so he might not be there long term. The Pistons are also interested in Norman Powell and DeMar DeRozan. That's other things to look out for. Zach LaVine is looking for respect in next contract, which is hilarious. Um, of a joke, especially now that they got Nikola Vucevic down there with them, and now Lonzo Ball, and we still have to see what they're going to do with Lowry Marketing. He's a guy that a lot of people are low on, down on, but he still can play, he still can shoot, and there's going to be some team that's going to try to take a gamble or a chance on him, and they can also do a sign and trade to get something for him. We still want to see what's going to happen with Dennis Schroeder, as he has not got picked up or traded yet either, even though we know for sure the Lakers aren't going to keep him because they kept trying to extend him, they keep trying to extend him. And then they just say, you know what, we're just going to trade for Russell Westbrook, and then we're just going to let you go. That's what we're going to do. And now we're going to see what the Lakers ends up doing with the rest of their cap space and the rest of the assets they still have left. TJ McConnell has also agreed to a $35 million deal over 4 years. Nobody would have thought that he would have got a contract like this, but it shows you that he continued to grow his role and grow his game. And now he has long-term future in the NBA. And the Pacers traded him, they picked him up, and they wanted to keep him. And now they got him locked down for a cheap contract that's tradable, contract filler type of contract, and a guy that you basically know what he is and know what he's going to bring to the table. And now they have him locked down for a couple more years. So another guy that a lot of people didn't really know what he was going to get, know what team he was going to be on, but the team that already had him gave him the extension, and he will remain with the Indiana Pacers, and he will remain a backup in this league. So that's another thing to keep an eye out. Other guys are getting picked up quick. Another guy that made $30 million, $35 million, and TJ McConnell should have a happier life. That's a beautiful thing for him. Now we're going to wait and see what these other free agents do. Looks like free agency might be done in the next 3 days, which really never happens. But a lot of the big names usually be the ones that go first. And now we see that still a couple of them left on the board. Chris Paul got his surgery before he even signed the contract. So I guess he needed to make sure his wrist and his hand was right before he signs a longer term deal with whatever team he wants to be with. Obviously, they locked up Cameron Payne already, but Chris Paul is the big one. Where will he go? How much will he go for? How many years will he get? That's the question that we're all waiting on with CP. And another thing is we still waiting on a couple small guys too, but we have to see where they're going to go or if they're going to stay, and that should be very interesting to keep an eye on. So free agency has been crazy right now. Not a lot of huge trades, but trades that we knew would possibly happen. Still don't see anything on Bradley Beal asking for a trade or being traded. So it looks like he really does want to be in Washington, and he can lock up that $235 million contract extension if he decides to stay one more year with the Wizards, especially if he's going to ball out the way he has balled out the last 2 years with them. Being an all-star, being a 30-point scorer, picked up an all-NBA team this year, all-star team this year, and it just shows you that he continues to grow his game, plays hard, and can put that ball in the basket on all 3 levels, and that's going to be interesting. Still want to know what the Suns are going to do with guys like DeAndre Ayton and obviously Mikal Bridges. DeAndre Ayton is a guy that we know played huge in the playoffs, is a big man that a lot of teams love, being able to be strong and being able to be mobile and athletic, have good touch, can shoot free throws, can shoot mid-ranges, can post up a little bit, jump hooks a little bit, and he can also grab that ball and smash it in the realm. I think that that's going to be something that's going to be interesting now that you got Cameron Payne locked up. Now that you locked up Booker a couple years ago, what are you really going to do once you lock up Chris Paul? Who's going to take the pay cut? Who's going to be able to make this team continually be a contender as Chris Paul continues to age? That's going to be an interesting question that they're going to have to figure out, as they already exceeded expectations, being a number 2 seed in the entire NBA. In their first year together, they was able to make a run to the NBA Finals. It's going to be tougher next year in the Western Conference, especially if everybody's healthy. And we're going to see whether the Suns are fluke or was they real. I think they real. But I don't know if they can get back to the finals as easily as they did. They never went 7 games in any series to get to the finals. They had a lot of teams that was beat up and toe up. They probably would have loved to win a ring this year, but it's going to be tough, and it's going to have them force them to play better together and stay together, or it's going to force them to break up and go in different directions. So that's going to be interesting watching the next 2 to 3 years of the Phoenix Suns and what they decide to do with all that talent and players. But so far, free agency has been crazy. Probably the biggest news is Kyle Lowry getting traded to the Miami Heat. Steph Curry signed a $215 million extension. Jimmy Butler signing a $100 million extension with the Heat already. And now we just have to see what these other small guys do. And we're still waiting on the bigger guys to show us what they're going to do. So nothing crazy has happened in the last couple minutes. And I want to continue to check on that. And just remember, Lonzo Ball did get traded to the Chicago Bulls. And we also know that Kyle Lowry agreed to join the Heat in a 3-year deal. Kyle Lowry will be there for 3 years. We don't know what he's getting traded for. I mean, we don't know what Toronto is getting for him. Now we do know it will be a 3-year deal with the Heat. And that's basically what you want anyway. Kyle Lowry wanted a 3-year, $30 million deal for any team that was interested. And it looks like he got the 3 years. We just don't know if he got the 30 million. And we don't know what the Heat is sending to the way of the Raptors. The Raptors still need some help. They still need a little bit more development on the young guys. But they have a coach that knows what he's doing. They have good personnel. They just need a little bit more depth in another scorer. And if they can find that, they can be back as a dangerous team to be able to make the playoffs. So that's something to keep an eye out for. That's something to watch. We also got breaking news again that Trae Young has signed an extension with the Atlanta Hawks, and it's $170 million over 5 years. So if he does, the Supermax trigger, that can make it up to 201 million. So Trae Young got locked up. We knew that he was a star. We knew that he could be special. I seen Trae Young in Summer League warming up. I seen him have some bad games. I seen some games where he was clutch. And then I also seen him become an all-star. I was at the all-star game that Trae Young was at when he was a starter. Didn't make the all-star team this year, but he made up for that, helping the team finish in the playoff race, helping the team become a top 5 team in the East when the season was over. And he also helped the team get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals in their first year with this team and this coach, which was Nate McMillan. It's beautiful to see them have that type of success and that type of run. But he has been locked up by the Atlanta Hawks. He didn't waste no time signing that extension, and now he's off the board. So that's something to keep an eye out on, is guys signing supermaxes or extensions to stay with the teams that they have already been on, and we've been seeing a lot of that. Still waiting on the news to see who the Raptors are getting in the sign and trade with the Miami Heat. Still waiting to see still waiting to see how much money Kyle Lowry is going to get on that deal going to the Heat. And still waiting to see what they're going to do with Duncan Robinson. That's a guy that's been hot. A lot of teams are interested in him. A lot of teams going to be giving competition for him. And now we just got the news that Duncan Robertson has agreed to a 5-year, $90 million deal with the Miami Heat. So he's off the board now. This is the the largest for an undrafted player, which he was. And the deal includes an early termination option after the fourth year. So Duncan Robinson will remain with the Miami Heat. A big part of why they made it to the NBA Finals in the bubble. His three-point shooting, his ability to space the floor, his ability to keep the defense paying attention to him and being honest, because he's always moving, he's always running. He can let that thing fly from deep. He can also let that thing fly from mid-range. And he has been an ideal fit and a steal of a pickup, a gem for the Miami Heat. And they prioritize keeping a lot of their guys on this team. They prioritize keeping a lot of these guys in general. And to see them get Kyle Lowry, to see them extend Jimmy Butler, extend Duncan Robinson, is showing you that the Heat like with the players they got. They like the culture that they got. And the thing that's crazy too is they just extended Bam this season too, and gave him a pretty good penny earlier this year. Well, basically last year, but he got his extension last year. So they keeping a lot of those same guys around. They like what they built, they like what they accomplished, they like what they're doing. They feel like Kyle Lowry might be the piece to get them over the hump. I like the fact that they did decline Andre Iguodala because he did not play at a $15 million deal level, but he will be picked up. You're going to see him off the board soon just because a wing that understands the game has big moments in the playoffs. They definitely going to want to keep him in the NBA. Everybody's going crazy now about Duncan Robinson getting 90 mil. You know, if you can shoot, you have value in this league, especially when you have the size of Duncan Robinson, not really known as a great scorer, not really known as a great defender, rebounder, or passer. But the fact that he can shoot the ball that hot, that far, that consistent, is love for them type of guys in the NBA. Even when you look at a guy like, you know, even Joe Harris got 80 million. He's not known for those things either. He still got paid. You even look at a guy like Bertans. He was a guy that was jacking up shots and whacking. He got $15, $17 million a year, and he's coming off the bench, only paying 20-some minutes. And he was able to get, you know, a lot of money just for being a shooter. So if you want to be in the NBA, you want to make a couple mil and stay around for another 10, 15 years, work on your shooting kids. Work on your shooting if you're a teenager and if you're in high school. You can let that thing fly from mid-range and three. You got to market in the league, especially if you got size. You know, especially if you can play the guard position or the forward positions. You can make some good money in the NBA. You know, that's something that we all been knowing for the last 7 years. There's a premium on shooting. Even Garrett Temple, not the biggest name, not the most well-known guy, is still in the league because he can come off a screen or be in that corner, be at the top of the key, and get the ball passed out to him, grab that thing, hold that thing, let that thing fly. And if it goes in, he'll be in the league for another 3 years. and that's how it's been for him. Feel free to ask questions, whatever you want to know, whatever you think I'm missing, or any questions you want to ask. Feel free to ask me anything while I'm doing a live stream. Just so many things happening at once. I'd rather just talk about them as they get dropped, talk about them as they come out, then make videos for every single one. I'm more busier now, so doing a live stream makes it easier for the fans and me, and continue to get everything out. It's pretty fun too, because it's exciting to see these people get paid. Chris Paul is done now. Chris Paul and the Suns agree to a 4-year deal worth up to $120 million. So Chris Paul did decline his $44.2 million deal with the Suns to become a free agent, which he was one of the big reasons why they got to the NBA Finals. Was a little beat up, was a little toe up, but he was able to help them get to the finals. Was a big reason why they won game one. Obviously, Mikal Bridges and those guys was a huge reason why they was able to get the 2-0 lead. But they're not done yet. It's good to see Chris Paul go say, I want to play with Devin Booker. I want to play with Aiden and Mikal Bridges and these guys because I like what they building. I like what they doing. I see what they doing, and I want to be a part of that. Then he comes in, helps the team become the second best team in the NBA, shows these guys the right way to play, being another voice for Monty Williams when people don't hear him or believe him or see it. They know that Chris Paul got his back, and Chris Paul gonna make sure things get done right too. And to hold these guys accountable, teach them, nurture them, help them grow as players, help the game become easier for them. And they don't really have the biggest names when it comes to defense, but they was able to be a great offensive team, but also a great defensive team throughout the entire season. And they was able to do that even in the playoffs. So for them to keep Cameron Payne, for them to even keep Chris Paul, it just shows you that they really believe that this team can be dangerous, not just this year, but even in the future. As Booker and these guys still are getting better, they're still growing, they're still learning. They're not even 25 years old. So even if you lock them down again, they won't even be 30 pretty much, even when their contracts end, even if they find a way to get a new extension. So that's how raw and young this team is. But look at what they accomplished in the regular season and look at what they accomplished in the playoffs. It's a beautiful thing to see that Chris Paul wanted to be here. He liked what they were building. He liked what they drafted. He liked what they developed. He respected what they did in the bubble and said, "Get me there." They took him in. Now they show commitment to say, Chris Paul, you're our guy. We're going to pay you the money. We're going to give you what you want. We're going to give you what you deserve and what you earn. And we'll love to see a couple more years of you in Phoenix, hopefully. And we'll see if they'll be able to do something special and possibly even win their first championship. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. They are in the Western Conference, but, they are a tough team and they are a team that's smart. They got a team with upside still. And the more they keep this team together, maybe they can be more dangerous than they were this year. Um, that's just something that we're going to have to wait and see. And that's just going to have to be something that we're going to have to watch. So Chris Paul is now off the market as he is now signed up with the Phoenix Suns. Other than that, um, we're still seeing some more smaller guys like Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott agreed to a 3-year, $42 million deal with the San Antonio Spurs. He has really made a special career out of shooting the ball. He was known as a guy that can put the ball in the basket in college and now has perfected the art of shooting where I just need to shoot the wide open threes, come off some screens, and splash them in. And he has earned himself $42 million. We were just talking about shooting. If you can let that thing fly efficiently and effectively, especially from three, you will get paid in the NBA. Doug McDermott is not known as a defender. Doug McDermott is not really known as a rebounder, a passer, or none of that. But look at him staying in the league even longer now with a contract that he just signed with the Spurs. And he's going to be making double-digit salary with the Spurs. And, he's not the biggest name, but you still got to give him credit. Torrey Craig will not be returning with the Suns. He will agree to a 2-year deal with the Indiana Pacers, and that will be worth $10 million. He's a guy that got knocked out by Giannis, but he did continue to play. It looked like he'll be done for the series, but he did play the next game. A versatile guy that can defend, hit some threes, can crash the boards depending on what lineups is out there, give you the ability to play small ball lineups because of his speed and quickness and toughness. And, they couldn't bring him back in Phoenix. They really didn't give up much to get him. And, a team like the Pacers prioritized him more than the Suns, and money talks, and they gave him his $5 million a year, and that was enough to lock up Torrey Craig. And the biggest news right now is Chris Paul. Another big news is Jared Allen collecting $100 million. Role players are going quick. There's not really too many big names out there outside of John Collins, who has still not agreed with an extension with the Hawks. Obviously, they're not tripping because they got their franchise player, Trae Young, locked up with a 5-year, $170 million contract. You rather have Trae Young than John Collins, but you still do want John Collins, even if you can't overpay him because then you'll be locked into this nucleus and you still want to have room to have another piece. But John Collins is a legitimate starter. Can rebound, can space the floor at the four position, can hit the mid range, can play roll and dive in the pick and roll, and can really finish in that paint. So you don't want to lose him for nothing, but you rather keep him. But you just don't want to overpay him to where you regret it or to the point where you feel like you can't make no more moves besides probably getting rid of him. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with what they do with John Collins, just because this deal has been so far apart for like 2 years. And the more they talk about it, the more they continue to try to get somewhere, they end up getting nowhere, which is the worst case scenario if you're a Hawks fan, because that might mean John Collins might have to go somewhere else. And then you have to worry about replacing him. Best part about the Hawks, though, is that they have so many forwards at that power forward position that none of them as good as John Collins, but you also ain't in the desperate need if he does walk or you do have to do a sign and trade to let him go. So, if you lose John Collins or you can't agree to a deal, you still have a lot of forwards that you can bring in that can give you something different than what John Collins gives, but also can give you some depth. If he leaves, you still got depth at that position. And you still got other guys that have different play styles and John Collins that can give you different looks, different type of lineup strategies, and they won't be dead in the water. But, you still want to get something for Collins if you can't agree to a deal. It looks like they definitely don't want to pay him the max. They definitely don't even want to pay him $100 million, and that might mean John Collins might have to go because another team will gladly pay that for this type of guy. And even though he's not the greatest defender, even though he's not the greatest player, he still is a starter in this league. And like we done seen, if you can start and play a role and excel in it, you can make a lot of money. Even if you may not be worth it to this team, one man trash is another man's treasure. You don't want to pay me, you're not going to give me the money I want. Well, fine, another team will, and I can be a starter, get my bread, and possibly have a better career somewhere else. And that's just how the game goes. In the NBA, a team would love to have John Collins if the Hawks don't want to pay him the money he's looking for. And it's unfortunate for the Hawks fan and the team, but he might not be a Hawk, this week. He might be gone, which is very realistic now. So that's going to be the contract and the player that we got to keep a watch out on. How much money will John Collins get, and will he even be with the Atlanta Hawks by the end of this week? That's going to be something that's interesting. But other than that, a lot of role players got picked up. Superstars are off the board. Not too many great, amazing players left because majority of them stayed with the teams. And now you're basically picking up, trying to get Kawhi Leonard at this point. But it seems like he's locked in. Staying with the Clippers too, knocking down another huge free agent. Not too many point guards out there no more. Kyle Lowry's gone. Lonzo Ball is gone. Chris Paul is gone. And now the problem is trying to figure out if you're a team like Dallas or something, what are you going to do now? Is Spencer Dinwiddie the hottest commodity at this point as a point guard that can play the 1 or 2, be a combo guard type of guy, can create his own shot, can make plays, can get to the basket? But we know he's going to be a little rusty because he had an injury, hasn't played in a while. We know he can hoop. We know he can play. We know what he can do on the court, but it's going to be a little different coming off an injury like that. And it's going to take a lot of weeks and months for him to be able to build his confidence back up and get some confidence in that leg, but also get back to where he was before, which is a 20-point scorer in this league. And a lot of teams will love to have that, even if they got to wait a little bit longer to get it. But, you're not going to pay him a lot of money anyway, so it's not like you're paying him $100 million. So Spencer Dinwiddie is probably the guy everybody's looking at. No Conley, no Lowry, no Paul. Those guys are all gone. Gordon Dragic is gone because he opted in, and obviously he might be the guy that's going to Toronto. So he's off the board probably too. So a lot of teams going to be a little sad right now if they want a point guard because the best ones have already been moved. Lonzo was the youngest one, and he was moved very early. That's going to be the thing that's interesting. So nothing crazy has happened when the last 5 months for the last 5 minutes. Luka Doncic will wait. This is big news for the people too. Luka Doncic will wait until after the Olympics to sign a 5-year, $202 million extension with the Mavericks. So everybody wondering, Trae Young signed an extension, Lonzo Ball got an extension, Jared Allen got an extension. Where is Luka Doncic extension? He just made it public that he will not be signing the extension to after the Olympics. So that's why Luka ain't signed the extension yet. For those who care and those who didn't know, Luka will most likely stay with the Mavericks. If you Mark Cuban, you happy. You dancing right now if you Mark Cuban that you can get a top 10 player in the draft, help you get to the playoffs the last 2 years. It has the ability to carry you to a ship in the future if they can put the right talent around them. So that's going to be something that's interesting, um, honestly and truthfully. So free agency has been crazy, has been a lot of fun, and we're going to be interested to see what's next for these teams. Chris Paul and the Suns agreed to a 4-year deal worth up to $120 million. One thing I'll never do is take this game for granted. Paul told Yahoo Sports, "I love to play. It's a real privilege. I said this time and time again, I don't care what type of business endeavors I have to set up when I'm done playing. It's going to be so hard and tough whenever I finish playing because I love the game. I love the grind. I love the workouts, all of it. This game means a lot to me, and I'm so thankful to be in this position." That's what he had to say about being locked up by the Phoenix Suns. What a real hooper. That's what a hooper would say. That's what a hooper would feel, especially when you've been in the NBA for over 10 years, been an all-star for 10 plus years, been an all NBA player for multiple years, and has been one of the greatest players that we have ever seen for his entire career. And it's good to see that he's committed to playing basketball and he's going to give it all he got. But we never doubted it. We never thought it was crazy when he's saying it because this is Chris Paul we're talking about. You don't get as good as Chris Paul and as consistent, as dominant as Chris Paul has been throughout his entire career if you don't have that mentality. So it's not a surprise that he would say something like that. But there's also reality that, that's what makes him great. And that's why he continues to be great because he strives for greatness. And that's what his buddy, best friend LeBron would say, who has already signed his extension last year. So we basically waiting for a couple more guys. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Going to go for an hour. Covered basically everything that you can cover for free agency this year. And at the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting to see where some of these smaller guys go, as all of the big names are basically gone. We just have a bunch of guys that you can plug into a rotation, plug into a starting lineup, make 10, 15, 5 to 10 to 15 million and be replaceable or fill a role that a team lost and now they had to come in and do better or be a different, unique fit for that team. So nothing crazy is happening now. All the big things, all the fireworks are going right now. This free agency moved quicker than we thought. As soon as it was eligible to sign, it seemed like everybody already knew the money. Everybody knew what they was doing because this has really went fast. It hasn't even been an hour since free agency started, and a lot of the big names are already off the board. And it was very quick. Still want to know if you want to know what Toronto gave The Raptors are widely expected to receive Precious Achiuwa as a part of the deal. Obviously, the Miami Heat pursued Kyle Lowry at last season deadline, but the Raptors ultimately decided to keep him. And he did do a 3-year, $90 million sign and trade deal. We are still waiting to see the players that was part of that sign and trade with Kyle Lowry, who Miami is going to be shipping out to Toronto for Kyle Lowry in the sign and trade. And that makes Miami so dangerous. They're going to be a team that's you have to watch out for a very, very long time, just because they team got a lot of young pieces. They have Jimmy Butler, who's one of the hardest, most respected players in the world. And Bam was an all-star. Bam was an all-NBA caliber defender last year. And, he's getting better. Every single year Bam has played in the league, he has gotten better. And I don't see that stopping this up-and-coming season. So keep an eye out for Pat Riley in the Miami Heat trying to do big things in that state and in that city and trying to bring a championship back. They haven't done it since they had LeBron, and he's been gone for a long time. It didn't take them 10 years to get back to the finals, but, they didn't win it. They lost to LeBron to win another ship for LA. And now they're trying to get back to the conference finals, to get back to the finals, to be able to bring a ship to to Miami. So we got a couple more minutes to go to see who else is going to fall, who else is going to get locked up, whether it's a role player or a superstar. The biggest names are Mike Conley, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, Jared Allen. I can go on and on. Even guys like Trae Young got locked up. Guys like Jimmy Butler got locked up. And I didn't even see deals like that happening this fast. But you already know what I'm worth. You already know what your stars are worth. You already know if they're going to take the pay cut or not. You already know what they should be paid. A lot of these deals happen quick just because you know the market, you know the position, you know the game. And at the end of the day, these deals move this quick because of the respect that the owner, the GMs, and the players have for themselves. The deal should not be hard. If y'all can't reach an agreement, y'all can't reach a deal, somebody trying to lowball you, somebody don't respect you, or somebody underplaying you. So, that's why a lot of these deals haven't been signed, or teammates are leaving, or they don't want to be with the team. You've seen with Lonzo. They didn't want to pay Lonzo his money. They didn't want to give him the opportunity. He got paid by Chicago and is gone now. And I'm hoping that he has a better role. Hopefully we can still see if a Ben Simmons trade going to happen. I would love to see Ben Simmons get traded. I would love to see Ben Simmons out of Philly. I wish it would have happened on draft night. That didn't happen. Hopefully it happens within the next couple weeks as free agency continues to go. So I'm cheering for Ben Simmons. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there, Ben Simmons. Get out of there. You got to get out of Philly while you still can. You don't want to play preseason. You don't want to play scrimmages. You don't want to go to camp. You don't even want to play one game as a Sixer. Get out of there, Ben Simmons. I'm rooting for you. Get out of there, just like Lonzo just did. And that's about it. Still don't see any more names. Seems like majority of the people have been locked up and they gone. I will be live streaming probably tomorrow. If not, I'll make some small videos for the players that already have either been signed or haven't been signed. And if it's enough of them, I would definitely be making another video. But if it's a small portion of them, then I just do them in separate videos and skip the live stream. Thanks for everybody that's been watching. Thanks for everybody that was kicking it with me. You still got 6 minutes to ask me any question about free agency, where somebody should go, who should they pick up, what direction they should go. Should they rebuild? Should they tear it down? Whatever you want to know, whatever you want to ask. I'm asking any question about basketball. So feel free to drop them comments in whenever you like. So, this has been fun so far. Other than that, let's see who else is going to fall in the free agency. Everybody been signing these deals. There ain't as many free agents because a lot of teams either re-signed them during the regular season, re-signed them in the beginning of the 2021 season, or most of them are going now just because they didn't want to stay with the teams that they was on and they wanted a fresh reset. There's nothing wrong with getting a fresh start. Nothing wrong for trying to move forward with your career, change your trajectory of your career, rebrand your career, or anything like that. So I think that's something that's going to be interesting to see in the future, what these teams and these players look like once the season start and they get to play with a new roster, new coach, new team. So big news: Devontae Graham is still hot. A lot of teams still trying to go after Devontae Graham. He has been he has been a player that I think Charlotte should let go of. I don't think they should keep him. I think they should let him go, especially after drafting James Bouknight and LaMelo Ball. I think those are your future. I think those are the guys you should build around. I also think they should let go of Terry Rozier. He's a little older. He doesn't really fit with those guys because he's too small, and you don't want to play 2 point guards that can't defend at a high level. So I think that they should try to let Terry Rozier play out this contract or trade him during the trade deadline season or the off season and try to go in a different direction with that. But everything done went down. Everything done went quiet. Pretty much hit everything in free agency that I can possibly do. So if y'all ain't really got no questions to ask, pretty much end the stream. Anything small that happened throughout the time that I'm gone, I will upload a video to cover it. Maybe quick, maybe 10 minutes like I usually do. Other than that, thanks for the support. Thanks for the love. Thanks for checking in with me. Another live stream. I'm only doing it because there's so many things that's happening at once. It's tough to make multiple videos covering all these things without trying to rush them. So why not cover them as they're happening and also answer some questions at the same time? So to me, it made a little bit more sense to go with the live stream than to go with the separate videos again. So other than that, hopefully you guys enjoy your day. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of the day. Quinn Wade, basketball analysis. I'm signing out. And if anything big happens, I'll be making a video later today to cover it. Other than that, I'll see y'all next evening. If nothing happens, I'm gone.